Hi everyone, it's Marla. Welcome back to Light and Liberty. I hope that you're all doing well. I've missed you. It's been a while since I posted any content here. Thank you guys for hanging around despite that fact. But there's a time to speak and there's a time to listen. And I've been doing a lot of listening instead of speaking and going within and asking for guidance on what I'm here to do, how I'm here to do it, and that includes this channel. I do feel like I'm coming out of the silence a little bit and getting ready to begin to post some content again. Now, today's video is something that's a little bit somber than I normally would want to talk about, but I really felt like this topic was important to touch on. And that is the Minneapolis school shooting that happened a few days ago in Minneapolis, where a shooter went into a Catholic school and attacked a bunch of children while they were in mass and killed two of them and injured 17 other people. I've spoken before on how we're in a battle of good and evil, light and dark right now. And this incident really juxtaposes those two things, the very, very dark and the very, very light. We have this, I'm trying to think of the right words because I don't want YouTube to flag me for a bunch of words that I'm using. This criminal was very infiltrated by dark forces. I caught a video that he made to post while he was committing this crime of him showing his arsenal of weapons and some of the things that he had written on those weapons, and they were very hate-filled. Um, some of the things that he had on there, I am the woker, was one thing that I think is very telling. He had a lot of anti-Semitic rhetoric that he was using. On one of the magazines, he had written 6 million wasn't enough. He had written on another one, um, kill Donald Trump. One said for the children. One said, where is your God now? He had written in his journal that he had fantasized about this crime for quite a while and felt that doing this to children, and specifically the children of innocent civilians, would bring him the most joy. This kind of hate, negativity, darkness only comes from being infiltrated by the dark forces. The video that I saw where he kind of said a few words was very chilling, and as someone that can pick up on these things and that clears entities, I felt that no question. So we have that. On the other hand, we have children, rather young children, 8, 10-year-olds. I don't know the range of age of all the children there, but saying mass, praying in a church, and obviously the dark trying to steal the light from these innocent children. So we have that, and that is bad enough. But then following this tragedy, we had a lot of messages coming from people against prayer. So obviously based on where this incident occurred, what they were doing, that this was affecting Christians in particular. For people to come out against prayer was also very chilling to me. So some of the things that were said From Jacob Fry, the mayor of Minnesota, he said, "Don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school and they were in a church." So basically, he's saying they were as close to God as you can get, and God didn't save them. So why bother? Jen Psaki on MSNBC said prayer is not freaking enough. Prayers do not end school shootings. Prayers do not make parents feel safe sending their kids to school. Prayers don't bring these kids back. Enough with the thoughts and prayers. Later on, Michael Steele, also on MSNBC, said, "I agree with the mayor. Thoughts and prayers, I'm so beyond that. I'm so beyond that nonsense. The lie of that. Because what we have are people who continue to stand in the way of doing something." And then we also had, on this vein, Brian Krasenstein saying, "Prayer is the problem here, not the solution. People use prayer instead of action. If prayer worked, a house of prayer wouldn't have just experienced this tragedy." In a way, these people are mocking God. And it almost begs the question, who are the victims here? Because when we're saying this about people that obviously have faith as they're taking the step of sending their children to a Catholic school and the children are going to church, it's a bit, uh, well, it's a bit dark, isn't it? It's a bit like the dark forces are speaking through them as well. Now, obviously, I understand that they have this anti-gun narrative that they're trying to push, and they're using prayers to push that narrative. But I think we also need to go deeper here when we consider what's at stake and recognize that there is a message here. Even if you want to categorize this message as subliminal, even though, like, frankly, it's pretty overt, but even if it's that subliminal of saying the same message over and over again, that prayer is useless. It's obvious that these messages were coordinated. These aren't even the only messages. There were others, but I think that I've read enough for you to get the point of what was being said. We have to remember that when we hear something over and over again, that it gets stored in our memory banks. That's what I mean by you might see this as subliminal because you don't realize if you're watching a lot of news, you don't realize that you're listening to this being said over and over again. And whether you believe it or not, it can infiltrate you. And this is the type of thing that the dark forces is counting on. So we need to take note of this and we need to reject it. Spiritual people understand that prayers work. And I'm specifically using the term spiritual people rather than Christians because it doesn't have to be just Jesus. It can be Muhammad, Abraham, Buddha, Shiva. You can be a pagan and you can be in spiritual communication with a higher power. But what it really is about is believing in something bigger than yourself, believing that there's something out there that is hearing you, that is helping you. And they may not answer those prayers immediately, and they may not always answer them in the way that you expect them to, or the way that you desire them to. But they are listening and they do help. Every day I work with spirit and I ask for something, and often it's immediately given. The healing work that I do is based on just asking spirit, please do this. And it's done. And don't take my word for it, but the people that we're working on feel the difference so they know it's done. Your prayers are heard and they are valued and they are worth something. So spiritual people know this, but what about those people that don't have a strong connection to a higher power, that don't believe in God, people that don't believe in anything? But we can look at this another way. One of the things I like to do on this channel is to offer different perspectives of things. So they're saying, well, look, these people were praying, they were in a church, and God didn't save them. Basically, what the criminal said, which was, where is your God now? But in a different perspective, all those people were there, and only two people lost their life. And while that's a tragedy, it could have been a lot worse. That criminal sent over 100 bullets into that church. Many people were wounded, but they're still here. And maybe it was because of those prayers that those children were saying. Maybe it was the hand of God that pushed those children underneath the pews to save their lives. Maybe it was Archangel Michael and his legions of angels that deflected bullets away from them in order to protect them. So don't tell me that prayer is meaningless unless you have proof that prayer didn't help. People that spout this kind of anti-spiritual rhetoric always like to say, well, it can't be proven. Where's the science to back it up? If there's no science, it can't be real. Well, you can't prove that prayer didn't help either. There's no science that proves that this might have been a lot worse. And it would have been if the dark forces had had their way and God had not stepped in. I want to read you this story of one of the children. Bear with me while I read this. At just 13 years old, Javen Willis has become a hero. In the midst of chaos, he didn't hesitate to help his classmates and lead them to safety during the tragic school shooting in Minneapolis. Where did such courage come from? From prayer and the firm belief that God was by his side and that everything would be all right. Javen, an eighth grader at the school, was inside the church when the shooting began. He later shared his experience in an interview with the Today Show, explaining how, amid the panic, he managed to guide his classmates to safety. The teen, who had been baptized only the week before, recalled that while many initially thought the sound was fireworks or confetti, he quickly realized it was something far more dangerous. At that moment, all I could think about was trying to keep everyone as safe as possible. So I told my two buddies to get down and get under the pew. And right when I told them that, it was like a state of shock for me. But I knew I had to try to keep as many people around me as I could safe, he said. Under the pew, Javen began to pray. He soon realized he couldn't simply stay hidden. He needed to help others. Well, right when it happened, I dropped down under the pew, like I said, and I prayed. I said my few prayers, and then I realized I can't just sit here and focus on myself, knowing that with God on my side, I would be fine. So I tried to just go and help out my classmates to try and keep them calm and safe. That is from a 13-year-old boy during that shooting. Where did that courage come from to help others? Didn't come from the dark forces. It came from God and it came from prayer. God works by giving us the strength when we seek to give up. When we have strong faith, we're able to hear God and act on it. They want to make this about guns. Guns are a neutral energy. They can be good or bad. Just like a knife is a neutral energy. It can be good, it can be bad. It depends on the function of the user. I believe that if we really want to heal our society, we have to go deeper than just looking at these surface issues. And gun control is a surface issue. For one thing, while they're talking about gun control, what they don't mention is lack of law enforcement. Now, from an article on CBS News that was written at the beginning of the year, in 2019, Minneapolis had 922 police officers. At the present time, there are 579 police officers. That means that about 40% less law enforcement officers in the city after the death of George Floyd. The city charter mandates that there should be 713 police officers at a minimum. That means there's 134 less law enforcement officers than should be there according to their own city charter. So we can look at guns, sure, but we also need to look at law enforcement. And for instance, how would you plan to get guns off the street if you don't even have enough police officers to do basic daily law enforcement? Another thing that we know is that the criminal in this incident got the guns illegally. And so who's to say that even if we had stricter gun control, that people wouldn't still be able to get guns? There's thousands, perhaps millions of guns out there illegally that I doubt criminals are going to be willing to turn in. But the point of me talking about this is really not to make an argument about whether or not we should have guns. But what I'm saying is we have to look deeper. It's not just one thing that is the problem here. You take a neutral energy, and it's the dark intent that makes something bad. So where is all the dark intent coming from? That's really what we need to be focusing on if we really wanted to take action about this type of crime. What we need to focus on is why so many people in our world today seek to commit violent acts on others. It's really bad right now, the things that are going on in the world. Again, I know a lot of you are spiritual and you stay away from the news. And I try to stay away from the news too. But, one of the things that really is an important cause for me is children and keeping children safe. And so I see so many crimes committed against children. And I know that those people are in the throes of the dark forces. Literally, I can see the demonic entities on them. I can see that there's no life in their eyes. And I know that many of you can too. And so there is a part of me that's drawn to this in order to figure out how I can help protect children, but really everybody, from this violence that's happening. But America has always had guns. But crime keeps going up and up and up. And so we can't just focus on one thing and pretend that that's going to solve everything. One issue is demonic possession. And I'm going to keep talking about this on this channel because people need to recognize it. People need to recognize it's a real thing. And it doesn't have to be like in the movies. It doesn't have to be like The Exorcist. And there's a way that we can help people that have these types of attachment. But if we pretend that they don't exist, then people are not going to get the help. And even though there's people out there like me that know they exist and are trying to help, if people aren't seeking us out for help because they don't know or they don't understand, then again, we can't help those people either. But the second thing is the increase in mental illness. And mental illness and entities can go hand in hand. It's not the only thing that goes hand in hand because anyone can have dark force energy attachments. But whether it's having a mental illness that makes you more susceptible to dark force entities, or whether it's getting attacked by dark force entities creates the mental illness, is unclear, but there's often a correlation. But we don't seem to really want to help people with mental illness either. We seem to be turning away from these things. And so many people are lost and without having a higher power to believe in. They don't have the will and the determination, the inner strength to want to fight for something better because I don't think that they can see that things can and are getting better. Many people today don't know how to regulate their emotions, and they have no self-control because of that, and they act impulsively and irrationally. And we need to start acknowledging this. I don't think that people want to acknowledge this, or maybe because what I mean is maybe some people are are not regulated in their emotions, so they don't see it in other people. Maybe they see that as normal. But how can we reach these people and help them and show them that this is not the way? After watching the video that this person posted, it's clear to me that they were hearing voices. And again, whether that is from mental illness and entities or entities that cause the mental illness, it doesn't matter. But they were both there, they were both present, and he needed help, and nobody was there to help him before he got to this point. What would have helped him? Perhaps prayer, perhaps God. Knowing that God loves us, each and every one of us. We need to focus on our spiritual connection now more than ever. There's an agenda that's trying to push all of us towards evil through hate, division, psyops, through the food that we eat, through drugs, sex, and a focus on materialism and pleasure for the sake of it. They want you to believe that materialism is all that there is and that you deserve to have everything handed to you. They want everyone to believe in the religion of pleasure over any connection to the spiritual world. We need to speak out about this, and we need to start showing others that materialism and narcissistic behavior is not what brings happiness. If we want to stop gun violence, crime, wars, if we want to live in a peaceful community where we all get along, then we need to teach a new way, which in truth is really an old, old way. And that is that love, justice, and compassion comes from God and our connection to something higher than us. And that God is guiding us when we allow it. But it's a choice that we all have to make to allow God and love in. And when we're ready to do that, all we need to do is pray on it. Thank you all for watching. And if you know someone that might be struggling with demonic possession or dark force entities or hearing voices, and you want to consider having a clearing session with me, I'll post my website below and you can check out my services. Thank you all for watching. Sending you all a lot of love. Until next time.